Hello, this is the 187 Said podcast, and I'm 187. So welcome to the 187 Said podcast. As promised, I say as promised, I said that I would do them every 2 weeks, and I haven't. This is quite delayed. This episode is an interview I did with a man called John James. He is a victim of domestic abuse, but not only that, he is also an author and a podcaster. He interviews men who have been victims of domestic abuse, and he has a number of episodes up and running. I shall put all of his details in the show notes. It would be really important for you to have a listen to them if this is part of your lived experience, or you want more information in regards to male victims of domestic abuse. Other than that, I shall let him speak, and I'll be interested to hear what you have to say at the end of the episode. Thank you. As we're talking about male victims or male survivors of domestic abuse from female perpetrators, in this section, what I'd like you to do is just give me sort of a rundown of generally what relationships before the abuse that you met, what was that like for you?
It was wonderful in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I even left my wife of 18 years for her because she just seemed so perfect, and we seemed so matched. Mm-hmm. And there was problems within my marriage anyway, and it was wonderful in the beginning, but after about a month, it turned sour. Sort of little things at first, and then it built and built and built until I was absolutely terrified of her.
So when you say that after a few months of little things, were these red flags or just little things what sort of things do you...
Thinking about it now, they're definitely red flags. You can write all the books about red flags that you want, but you don't notice them when you're under control of narcissistic abuse. Because you think it's wonderful, you think everything is great. But she started off by, she'd grab my skin and pinch and twist my skin, or she'd thump me with her fist in my chest. And if I complained about it, she'd say, well, I thought you're supposed to be a man.
Okay.
Jesus. It's like, toughen up a bit. And after a while, then I just stopped complaining, because I thought, well, maybe she's right. Maybe this is what she called playing. But
this sounds a bit like grooming, almost.
Oh, yeah. Well, after the fact, when you think about it, then it was, and it just built up from there. She'd lose the temper over anything. I mean, I'd before I even met her, I'd bought a ticket to go to see Jimmy Carr, and I went to that gig, but she didn't speak to me before I went, because she said, I don't want you to go, I need you to stay with me. But she wouldn't tell me why she needed me to stay. So I went, and she didn't speak to me before. She sent abusive texts as I was on the train going to the gig, and she didn't speak to me when I came back.
Right. So it's and when she said she needed you to stay, what sort of things did she give a reason?
No, I said to her, I said, why? Why do you need me to stay? I just do. So, and it's like when I went to, I used to go watch the football in the pub, and I'd go watch the football in the pub, and she'd text me over and over and over again, what are you there for? Why didn't you come back to me? Come back to me. And I'd end up going back. So I ended up as I didn't go to any concerts, and I didn't go to the football at the pub either. Because she wanted me there.
Okay. And again, for no apparent reason, just for having you there.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously these, what they call cultural activities, these things that you're going to do, going to gigs or sitting in a pub watching the football and so on, are going to be with, occasionally with friends and members of family and stuff like that. What
Well,
happened?
my family lived off, and my friends lived off as well. 'Cause I've got like I live in I lived in Leominster at the time, and um, my friends are quite far away, and so is my family.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was with her, I think my family, I was with her for 18 months. I think I saw my family once
Yeah.
and never saw my friends.
So essentially,
So
you and her.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But she'd see her friends all the time.
Okay. And then when she was off doing with her friends, what would you be doing?
Sitting at home waiting for her to get back.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
And then throughout, from the start, obviously it was a whirlwind sort of thing. You're saying it was, you left your partner.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You left a marriage, and then it's like this relationship. It started with these red flags started coming up. But
yeah.
when did this start? I suppose the first question really is, what sort of emotions did you go out? What sort of things were you telling yourself? Sort of the first quarter of this relationship.
At first, I was telling my with the so-called playing, I ended up telling myself that like maybe I was being silly and maybe I was overreacting. As in, don't go to the pub and don't go to concerts and things. I just wanted to keep her happy because one of the worst things she did is not speak to me, and I hate that. I don't like the silent treatment at all. And if she was giving me the silent treatment and I wanted to get it over and done with and discuss things, she wouldn't do that at all. She just either leave the room or tell me to leave the room. So that sort of left me in limbo. So I was feeling sort of a bit confused, a bit lonely. I was blaming myself for a lot of it, and she would constantly say, "You've ruined my life," and look, when she started it to me, it was look what you made me do.
Right.
So there was a lot of self-blame there.
Okay. So when she says, look what you made me do," what would you tell yourself then?
Well, I'd think that there was something that I'd done wrong, and I was constantly thinking, okay, if I behave like this, then it's all going to stop and we'll be happy. So I changed my way, but little did I know until after everything had finished and my head was clear that every time I did change the way I was behaving, she'd move the goalposts. So I was never going to be the person that she wanted me to be.
Right. So you're almost set up to fail, so to speak.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. 100%.
But of course, as you say, being in it, or being in this situation, you're not noticing that this is something that's a detriment to you at all, really, are you?
You're totally unaware of it because you're 100% under control. Your mind's under control. That you're constantly in a state of confusion. You're constantly trying to work on yourself so that your behavior doesn't affect their behavior, but your behavior isn't affecting their behavior in reality, but you think it is.
Hmm.
So you can never win.
So when you're talking about working on yourself, it's not working on yourself for yourself. You're working on yourself to placate somebody else.
Please.
To please.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Has that? I say the need to please in this regard is obviously quite an essential part of that relationship. But is that something that's come up within your childhood, your past marriage, or anything like that, or?
No, in my past marriage, I was very selfish,
Okay.
very very selfish. I was very much, if I want to go somewhere, I'm gonna go somewhere. There was more than just that was the problem, but it, my my wife of then wasn't. It was like we had totally different uh, likes, wants, and needs.
Hmm.
So I'd fulfill my wants and needs and likes, and I'd go to a concert on my own. I'd go to the football on my own, you know. But in this relationship, because I was so um, addicted, I suppose, to my then partner, um, it was a constant um, trying to constantly trying to please her, but not really to make her happy, but just to. I don't want her shouting at me. I don't want to punching me in the face. I don't want her kicking me. So
Yeah. No, I can see that. So you're this for you. This is essentially is within this almost terrorist like situation. This you are surrounded by everything around you is a potentially a violent or abusive situation. You are pretty much just trying to survive within it.
yeah, yeah. I do um, think she was an emotional terrorist, 100%, because everything I did was wrong. It doesn't matter what I did.
Hmm.
Even if it was something kind, I'd be doing it for alternative motives or something. So, I could never win. And that's a scary situation to be in, especially when you haven't got friends or family around.
So it seems, I mean, what you're describing is a relationship with someone that is abusive to you, and you have no one around you. You're isolated.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so at what point did you say to yourself, "I'm not gonna just be surviving anymore. I now want to live." What's talk to me about that time when you
Oh,
went off.
there's I threw out a couple of times, and and the first time I went back and basically begged her to come back. Um, and then the second time that I threw her out, I was fine. I was well rid of her. It was one hit too many. She slapped me in the face one too many times, and I was like, "That's it. You've got to leave. You've got. I don't want anything to do with you anymore." But then, 10 days after I threw her out, she started getting in touch with me, and wormed her way back in again. And I fell for it all over again. And then she phoned me one day and said, "Never get back in touch with me ever again because I've found somebody else." So, and that sent me in a tailspin down. And I realized that the only reason she got back in my life is because when I threw her out, I had control. I'd taken control.
Hmm.
She wormed herself back in my life so she could dump me, so she could get the control back.
Okay, in a bizarre way. Yeah, I see that. She sees herself as the winner. I suppose. I don't know. Who knows? I'm quite.
That's how I see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm quite interested to take a step back into when you first split, and you begged her to
Yeah.
come back. What was it you were? In order for you to go through that, you obviously went through a process, and then you picked up the phone or went to see her, whatever, and decided that you wanted to have her back. What was it
Yeah.
that despite having that abuse, and now there was a gap of hours or days, whatever, where that didn't happen? What made you think that actually, do you know what, I need to have her back?
It's strange because the control that they have over you, and I can't, I don't know what it is about it, but my stupid, well, it's not stupid. I always tell people that don't call yourself stupid. It's strange that I thought losing her was more painful than having the abuse. And maybe if she came back, there wouldn't be any abuse, which is a crazy way to think. But that's what I thought. I thought maybe if I say, look, I want you back, and these are the reasons I want you back, because I love you and stuff, that she would come back and everything would be all right again. And it was for about 2 weeks.
Yeah. So going through that process, and obviously then you've asked her to come back. With the lead up to it, what was your view of yourself, not the relationship, but just yourself, when you decided that you wanted her back?
I thought because she'd had a rough upbringing, and because she'd been abused by her dad and by her mum and by her brother, and she had a lot of abuse when she was younger, I thought I could fix her. And that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, do you know what? If I can be the person that she wants me to be, I can fix her by making her happy, and I'll be happy in the relationship, and it'll be brilliant. But that's totally illogical, because she'd already shown that that wasn't going to be the case.
If you view it as being completely illogical, then you must have been driven by something other than, I don't know, the sensible head. What was it that kind of drove you to think that this could work? The feelings? I'm probably more interested in the emotions, I suppose.
Because I thought I loved her. I thought I loved her. I mean, obviously it wasn't love. It was something else. It was upset something. But yeah, I thought I loved her.
Yeah. So I mean, when we say we thought we loved her, that you saying that there is that feeling of what we think is love, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you saying that it might be obsession, is that, or?
Yeah, from what I've studied since then, it is a kind of obsession that they've manipulated you into. Mm-hmm. You think they are the be all and end all of everything. I definitely thought my life was better with her, and I was constantly thinking that this can end. Mm. If I do this, if I say that, if I give her everything she wants, this can end. Mm-hmm. And then we'll both be happy and life will be perfect.
Yeah, and life will be perfect. That's it. So when we talk about what relationship should be, the shape of a relationship, did at some point do you think, well, this is not okay, this is not what you wanted in life? Or
I constantly went through modes like that. I say this in my book, that I used to sit at the window sometimes and watch her go to work, and she used to go to work on a push bike, and I used to watch her ride off, and I used to think, please fall under a truck. Because I thought, if she went under a truck and she died in a fatal accident, then that'd be all right, because that she hadn't left me, I haven't left her, but it's over. Mm-hmm. And it was the thought of one of us leaving the other that was the horrible thing, funny enough. But I desperately wanted it to be over at the same time.
And that's almost flies in the face of, when you did get back together again with her, and saying, giving any excuses or any kind of reassurances, that you say that you fell for it all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what sort of things was said to you to make you fall for it all over again?
It was just her being nice rather than, because you never knew when you walked through the door, you never knew what kind of person you were going to face.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know whether you were going to face the person who threw her arms back and kissed you all over your face and was really nice, or you were going to get a cold shoulder, or you were going to get shouted at for anything. So if you walked in and she was all over you, then it was great, fantastic. Maybe this everything changes, but obviously it never does. But yeah, she'd just be nice. That's all I wanted.
Just to be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, you know, the phrases like, you know, it's I'm being crazy or I'm being silly, but all these emotions that do run through us do push us to do some things that are probably not to our benefit. It's just the way it is, and hopefully we get more of an understanding of ourselves and are able to learn enough that we make new decisions. So for you, this relationship came to an end because you got back together and then she dumped you. So is that,
yeah.
And have you heard from her since? Does she make any contact with you?
I never heard from her again. I did get in touch with her many months after we split up, because I was starting to. I'd done a couple of interviews and I was starting to put together a documentary with a friend of mine about male victims of abuse, and I actually emailed her and said, "I'm making this documentary. I'd like you to be a part of the documentary and talk about our relationship. There won't be any editing. You can say exactly what you want. There won't be any agenda. You know, you can say exactly what you like, but give your side."
Mm-hmm.
And she just sent me an email back that was like a minefield of narcissism. And he was like, "Oh, we you've got to understand, we'll never get back together." It's like, I don't want to get back together. I just want to, you know. So I just want to make a good documentary.
Yeah. So when you say a mind full of narcissism, it's not just the fact that she thought you just wanted to get back to get together again. It was other things as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, without looking at the email, I can't remember what was in it, but I know that it was like she denied abuse. I never abused you. You ruined my life. You know, in the accusation that I wanted to get back together with her.
Mm. And it's interesting the you ruining her life. Has come up. You mentioned that a couple of times. Does she refer back to that quite a lot during the time we?
Oh yeah.
Was she specific about what she meant by that?
She said, she screamed at me one day. I've actually got a recording of it. She screamed at me one day that I suffered from. She says, "You've got dementia," for some strange reason. And then she said, "Me and my son," because her son lived in another country, because she wasn't English, and she said, "Me and my son are going to starve because of you." And it's like, well, no, because I don't give anything to your son anyway. You've got your own money, so I don't know why I was being blamed for anything to do with her son.
Mm-hmm.
But and she'd constantly say things like that, and constantly say, "You've ruined my life." That was her big thing.
So, yeah, well, thanks for that. So it almost brings us to the kind of the end of that relationship. So you were dumped. At what point did you realize that being dumped was a good thing?
Uh, that was, I think, March 2017. And then my dad passed away in the September of that year, which sort of impacted everything. Just that was the cherry on the flaming cake, that was. And then in November, I went to India and Nepal to get away from everything, to find a bit of peace. And the people that I met there changed my life. And I came back a completely different person. I was in therapy before I went, and when I came back, I went to the therapist and said, "I don't need you anymore."
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she said, "Can you come back next week, because we need to check if this is just, you're happy that you've been on holiday." And I went back the next week and spoke to her, and she said, "No, you don't need me."
Yeah, because she could tell.
Yeah, and it completely changed my life, and I converted to Buddhism, and then later I converted to Hinduism, and that's just completely changed my life.
So the conversion to Hinduism and Buddhism, that change is a significant one, but there will be some emotional ones or things about yourself that you kind of gained from it. What will those things be?
I came back from Nepal, and I knew that not only do I never let anybody do that to me again, then I've got to change myself as well. And I knew that I had to come back, and the way to change myself is to give to others. And that's what I did. I started volunteering at a homeless shelter, and I really threw myself into work because I work in care. So I really threw myself into my work, and I became a better carer because of it. And I went from being lonely and despondent to really love living on my own. And, and every day I would get up every day and thank the universe for another day. I started to really love life.
Okay. I mean, so loving life is a great part of our existence, kind of, and I suppose the external things that we get back from other people, the feedback from helping others. What about, the whole, do you spend equal amount of time looking after yourself now? Or?
Yeah, I mean, what was funny was like 2.5 years later that I'd been living on my own for 2.5 years, and I met this girl from work, and we started seeing one another, and she's been through horrific abuse. I mean, unbelievable abuse, and she's been abused all her life as well. So we had that sort of connection when we did start talking, and like nearly 2 years, we've been together nearly 2 years, and we got married in April, and we're both extremely supportive. We care about each other, we care about ourselves, and it's like an equal relationship. Nobody is trying to get one-upmanship on the other person, and it's so wonderful to be in a relationship like that. That's all I've ever wanted.
So now you found you're happy with yourself, happy with the partner with, happy with the world, as you kind of relate to it, and that's that's the almost like the triangle, the triad of what we need to be, I don't know, a worthy part of the world, I suppose. We value ourselves, others, and the world around us.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love and really appreciate the small things in life now.
Mm-hmm.
I stand on my balcony and look at the view, and I love the view, and it's like that is worth more to me than anything really.
And it's wonderful. So there is this. You've gone for a journey of looking at yourself negatively within the turmoil of that relationship, and then coming into the point where you are recognizing yourself and then learning to give to others and getting the benefit from it, feeling, and then obviously now you're married and all of that. Are there anything, or are things that are still in your mind that are, sort of the slightly peppered or negative nuggets that are still around for you that come up every now and again that you have to sort of manage?
I don't think when I first got together with my now wife, she would say, do you know, when we're in bed, I have to reach over and see if you're still there. She says, because you're so quiet and you're so far away. And that's because when I was with my abusive partner, if I made a sound in bed or moved, she'd go crazy. She'd jump out of bed, she'd thump me, or shout at me and things. So when at the beginning of this relationship, I was so still, lying right on the edge of the bed and so still and quiet. And that had followed over from the abuse. But now, no, nothing now. Okay. I absolutely love life now, and I put all my energies into helping others who've been through the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And you obviously, it sounds just from you talking and, our preamble before, you get a lot back from it.
Oh God, yeah.
That's good.
100%.
And you've gone so as far as to write a book. If you could tell us a bit about the book that you've written.
From the Darkness is on Amazon, and that is about my experiences within the abusive relationship from when we met up until near enough present day. It's a very book. I do, say my own faults in there as well as everything that happened to me. So it's very honest. I'm not shy about it. And I write it without hindsight as well. I try and write it to put the reader there when I was there. So hopefully people get that feeling when they read it, that they're actually there.
Okay. And what sort of feedback have you got from the book?
Well, it's 5 stars on Amazon.
Yeah, that helps.
And yeah, and everybody's praised it on, the people who've left reviews on Amazon have praised it. What is wonderful about it is people have, survivors of domestic violence, male survivors of domestic violence, they've been in touch and said, I've read your book and it really helped. It shows that I'm not alone. Thank you. So I was really, really pleased with that. That feels so good that people feel like that.
Excellent. So I have ordered a book. It should be arriving today, which is Saturday. So I should be, that'd be my weekend. I should do that. So that's good. Thank you very much for this. What I also wanted to ask you is you before we're just coming out the other end of COVID, sort of. I don't know if that's even a real thing. if we are actually coming out of it, or if this is just another chapter in a book that you kind of go, I thought we were finished now. Yeah. This is probably a trilogy or something that we don't know about. You're embarking on. You started making a film.
Yeah.
And was this based on a book, or is it something completely different?
It's partly based on the book. It is called From the Darkness, and the Red Pill movie. A guy who worked on the Red Pill movie is filming, and it'll be sort of interviewing me, interlaced with me interviewing other victims of abuse. And I've also, it'll also be part of it is I went to Sweden to do a talk at university about male victims of abuse. So some of that will be in it. I've spoken to Abused Men in Scotland organisation, so that'll be in there as well. So it's a mixture of everything really, but all related to male victims of abuse.
Okay. And obviously, because you were saying before when we made contact that you, because of COVID, you had to stop the production of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you going to get, restart that?
Well, when everything gets back to normal again, whenever that is, then I'll get in touch with my colleague and we'll start again. Yeah. We'll start interviewing again. We'll start filming my and stuff, and so we'll see.
Okay, and how will you fund that? Is it you doing it yourself, or is it you going to be part of a collective, or can people?
It's self-funded really. We're traveling. We travel to Scotland and interviewed guys in Scotland. We traveled to. I travelled down to London. My colleague comes from London. We travelled down there, and we interviewed. There's a singer musician called Itch, who lives in London, who went through domestic violence, and she tried to ruin his career. So we interviewed Itch, and so it's all self-funded, and we'll just see what the pandemic brings.
Yeah, that's that.
So we can sort it out again.
So if people, hearing what you've gone through and what you are proposing to do, not just buy the book from Amazon, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes, and want to know about the film, how do they keep in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me on Facebook, which is John James Author. They can get in touch with me on Twitter, which is at FTDprod, and get onto Spotify and have a listen to FTD Talk, which is my podcast.
Yes, which I neglected to talk about. That's one of the things I want to.
That's all right.
Yeah.
And so if you are suffering from abuse out there, if you're a survivor of abuse and you want your story out there, you want to give your side of things and tell the world how you're getting on, then get in touch with me, and I'll talk to you for the podcast.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll put everything you've spoken about. I'll put those in the show notes so people can get in contact with you. And for you, the future, what's that look like for you sort of moving forward?
I've just got a new job, which is a great job, which is mostly it's a kind of a counselling role. It's like a companion for people with dementia. So that's awesome. So I don't know when I start that job. I think it's within the next couple of weeks anyway. So that's awesome. I've just got married and she's awesome. And the podcast has stalled a little bit because people aren't coming forward, but I'm sure that'll change, and people will come forward. So I keep campaigning, keep working, keep loving life.
Excellent. Good. It almost sounds like you've rediscovered hope.
Oh, definitely. And this is what I want to give to other people. I want to tell people that, like, hey, I know how you feel at the minute because I've been there. But believe me, it can all change. All you've got to do is change the way you look at life. I know that there's not much emphasis put on the aftermath of abuse. And even after the abuse is over and the abuser has left, it's still there. But you've got to try and remember that the past doesn't exist apart from in your own head.
That's
so if your abuser is not there, they're not hurting you, you're hurting yourself. So it can change. It can. There is hope out there.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the 1877 podcast. Feel free to get in touch with me via any of my socials, which are in the show notes provided, or you can send a voice note to +44 7367 034 if you wish to participate or have a suggestion of topics to cover. Thank you.